This is Mr. X, and this is my end of week for June 29th through July 3rd, 2026. I'm going to go through the monthly, weekly, daily on GU and EU, going back and forth. And then I will go through GU on the 4-hour, 15-minute, and 1-minute to check out all possible trades on GU, and then I will move to EU. I won't go back and forth unless I need to show a confluence. Okay, let's get into it. This is GU on the monthly. We're still maintaining this little demand chain. It's not a chain, just demand areas. We do have this flip zone here, which did a subtle sweep, but we did break this point. It's not really too much to think about because we broke this point and we traded away from it. So we could break this point and trade away from it. We can't really tell anything right now. And we do have some more liquidity to come up for on the monthly time frame. So this isn't really helpful for us. We'll have to focus on lower time frames. On EU, EU is much different. Now we're in this yearly supply chain. We've taken all liquidity here. I'm not counting this as liquidity to take because it's too close near the high and it's in this chain. So we have to break this chain to take this liquidity. I never play for a chain to break unless it's really against the narrative. And so we've mitigated this extreme chain. After the liquidity, we've come down, we've broken this last point of demand. Let's get this drawn in here. Then we've come up, we got the floor, and then we broke again. So now we have monthly supply and control, which is fairly significant. Because now we can start thinking about this next piece to go. And it might retrace up to here this month and then take that out. But we will see what happens. We haven't closed below this previous internal structure yet. See, this broke with a body here. But on the downside, we did not break with a body. So we'll just have to follow lower time frame, and it'll tell us what's going on. It will, if it's going to break swiftly, and then we could easily change our narrative or get on board longs or shorts. So now going back to GU, we'll go down to the weekly. Weekly still respecting this chain right here. This was last week's price action where we came up and we mitigated. Actually, no, that's this week's complete candle. Okay. So I didn't cut back before that. So we took out this liquidity. Now this is liquidity on the weekly time frame. So when we get liquidity taken on the weekly, we can somewhat anticipate a pullback to a weekly zone, which it clearly did. Similar to other time frames, as we go down to the daily, I'll just show that really quick. This is daily IRL inside this weekly leg. Once we took it out here, we traded up to this daily last point of supply, and then we traded through the weekly. So it's something to always keep in mind. So in these cases, we wouldn't put too much strength on, let's say, a 4-hour last point of supply, because you see we blew right through it this way, and then we took out the weekly, and we didn't blow right through this one. We reacted and went, but they still didn't hold too much strength against such higher time frame orders and liquidity. On the euro, it's much of the same strong chain coming here. We did break this low. So now we have a stronger high, a strong high. This high did break this previous low with a body. If price starts to do something like this, we could start taking out these pieces, even this final piece, and then then it could continue. But we'll assess that. It's got to do a lot of movement for that to happen. But right now we are at the beginning of the week. We had closed below here. You see this week we retraced all the way up to the near top of this weekly last point of supply. It didn't break. It held by 11 ticks. So it's a hold, a hold, a hold. It could break and come up to this better zone, which is a flip zone. But we'll see how it plays out this week. I'm going down to the daily to get a clearer direction. Like I was saying, we got the weekly break. So possibly a weekly pullback. And not so much a daily pullback. You can see that's our daily last point of supply. It holds for a while, but price pulled back to Monday on the daily. So we have this zone here, but if we get lower time frame, like 4-hour order flow going up, we might be more neutral, expecting this zone to get mitigated. Coming on the daily, on the euro, the daily last point of supply lines up perfectly with the weekly, so that's pretty significant. So we break the weekly, we'd have to show a lot of strength to get through that up to here, but it's happened before. It could happen again. You see this long wick, you could easily stall up here, just wick up and then continue back down. So that's the higher time frame for both. Now, something else to keep in mind is on the monthly. We have this monthly candle. At the time of the beginning of the week, we are somewhat down here. So we need this wick. If we look back at all of these other candles here, other than this one right here, all the rest have a sizable wick. This one, not so much, but that's the bullish side, so we wouldn't expect this wick to grow. You see even this huge bullish candle does have a wick that's, let's see, I could even draw it in right now on price opened right here on Monday. Now we can go back to that monthly and check out where price is. You see price is significantly, like, this is a full candle here, so the wick is this much. So we would expect the wick to be a little bigger. This was a small wick on a bullish candle, but as you can see, most of them are much larger wicks. So we'll play with that that idea. And it's a probability game. Like, we could see one small wick here out of all these larger wicks. So the odds are this one's going to get larger. So let's go back to, and another piece of information is we are in the last few days of the month and then coming into the first few days of the next month. So what we're going to need to see is this large wick put onto this month, and then depending on the next month, if the next month's going to open here and go down, we need a bullish wick. Like this one opened up, went up, and then dropped. So we do need a bullish wick somewhere. And that's the same with most candles, especially higher time frame candles. This opened here, we created that lower wick and then started going up. You can see that most of them are these, even if I start putting down this EQ, that lower wick goes to the EQ of a lot of these. And that's a continuation here. So even if this is going to be, let's say, another bullish candle, we would somewhat, sorry about that, we would somewhat expect price to get up to here, the EQ, before continuing on. So in most cases, a continuation candle will do that. See this one, yeah, EQ. This one. So out of the 5 I put on here, only one. So we're gonna go with the 80% odds. This one, not as much. This one, not as much, but clearly this one. So we're gonna go with those 80% odds. So that's the monthly candle. It's the same with EU. We're going to expect this wick to get higher in the next few days. And we'll go from there. All right, we're gonna go down to the 4-hour on GU. We're gonna go through all GU price action for the week. Start Monday AM at 7:45. My session starts at 8 o'clock. So we're just looking at price. 4-hour supply took control last week, late last week on Friday right here. That's the bottom. We got this last point of demand. We react off of it. We come down, we go up. Right, there's our floor, and we break again. So we have 4-hour demand and control. And now we have the structural range. Our previous structural range is the 4-hour. And there was no clear pullbacks, no clear structures. So we could kind of just say that this is all 15-minute IRL. So let's take a look on the 15-minute and see if we could see that a little better. And this was my only leg of contention because we did have this strong high. We did break it. We did take a bunch of IRL. So we could say that's it's more a 4-hour IRL. I'll just stick with that because that's how I see it. I'm not going to start labeling all of this as IRL, even though this is the structural leg, and we call it internal range liquidity. This is our range. That's our liquidity. That could be seen both ways. But yeah, so for Monday, we're bullish. Remember, we don't have much strength on this zone. We're expecting this zone to possibly get mitigated. And we have 4-hour demand and control. So as long as we have 15-minute targets going up, or even 15 minutes demand and control, we could really look for longs because we have a good long bias. So coming into my time, don't have clear. I don't have any zones right now. Possibly a zone right here. Or we have this 4-hour zone. And then not the best of targets either, but we've broken through this. So this is a quasi target. So we're looking for longs. We do get this flip zone created right here, but price never leaves it to come and mitigate. Well, now it does. But we're just traveling up and up and up. So there's really no clear trades. To trade this sweep, I would want to see a flip zone, which just isn't really clear at all. Yeah, that's more of the clear reaction. This is more off a window of imbalance, so we're not going to count that. And then price is just going higher and higher. We have this flip zone here, which we come off of. Really no trade in here, no liquidity taken. It just goes straight up and breaks the zone. And then we get to the strong highs. We don't know what's going to happen. Even if it is a CPB, we would expect, because of the strong 4-hour, we still want to be cautious of a higher time frame pullback, a 4-hour pullback. But now it's the end of the day, so we'll fast forward to Tuesday's price action, which is right there. So we'll go back onto the 4-hour, and we're still, nothing's changed with the bias. Still have 4-hour demand and control. We have this zone here, which is now part of a chain. Should really have that written down here. And the same things apply. Yes, this is strong, but higher time frame liquidity technically should be stronger. So we're just going to let the lower time frame tell us what's going to win and go from there. So yeah, we're expecting, now that we have supply and control, we're going to take out this whole void here because our structural range is right there. Take out all the liquidity down to the chain. So I'd be looking for shorts to take this out. We have this flip zone, and that's it. We see right away that New York doesn't commit. New York isn't committing. This orange line represents London low. And then we put in a New York low, but we just wick it. So we don't really know what's going on. Maybe we're using this as liquidity, but I'd still like to see a trade off here towards this last piece of IRL. We really don't get anything because this is not usable liquidity because we didn't close down here. And we just don't create more liquidity. And we have this point and this point. The price just trades down and then shoots up pretty fast. I know there was some speaking going on this day, so it got pretty wild. And then our narrative quickly changes. So we've taken out there and there. So now we have demand and control. So a zone like this towards this high at least, because now this high didn't do anything on the 4-hour. It's just created this lower, potential lower, or in higher low. So we just play that through. We go ahead and we break this daily last point. We break it. It's also that 4-hour strong high. Now, really the same thing. It's an L pod. It's not the best of zones, but this still has to break. And this had a ton of orders. Like this pushed well through this high. Go ahead and let's counter order flow. So that would always be a CPB. Now there was a trade here. It was double confirmation, which if I'm going to play these weird quasi zones, it has to be double confirmation regardless of order flow. And it was a pretty clean setup. We get the break here, which makes this liquidity, takes the liquidity, takes it, and shoots off pretty quick. So that's a liquidity POI. Could take this right away. It does have everything it needs. My trade looks to be a triple confirmation. Price price goes up, breaks again, comes down and takes more liquidity. Even more liquidity. Yeah, I really don't know what am I showing on this trade here. And that's the pure trade. So we take liquidity, we come up, we react, we come down and we break. So this liquidity is just thrown out completely. But now that we traded above here with the body, we're starting to make this pretty strong chain. We already took liquidity once. So we could say, okay, maybe we are just going to stick it, even though we took this extra liquidity here, and just go with that. So that's probably what my thought process was there. And it's just that little extra confirmation, little extra reaction and break right in here to really just cement in, okay, we're definitely forming, we got orders coming on the buy side. So that was something I saw there. It's a fairly rare trade, and when these things happen, I like to see what EU is doing and seeing what it's coming off of. You can see it's not really doing anything. It did break its last point of supply, which would probably put me off of that GU trade. And then GU came up to the window of imbalance and traded lower. So you see, that didn't happen. This is the last point of demand. Is really not the most significant orders in there. That was that day. And we could fast forward to Wednesday. Pop it back here. And now we're looking at very much the same thing. We have this 4-hour, not really, I could say it's a flip zone. We did react off the wick, one leg down, one leg up. And it's the last point of demand. So that's fairly important because it's pro trend. We took out the daily last point of supply. So now we don't really have anything holding us down below here. So we can almost trade freely right into there. And with 4-hour demand to control, we could just start aiming for these highs. So going down in the 15-minute, we're looking for, mostly looking for really just shorts here. Maybe just waiting. That would be supply and control, but there wouldn't be any targets, which is a bigger issue. Counter 4-hour, expecting the weekly. There's no more IRL here. We've taken it all. There's no IRL to begin with. So I'd be fairly neutral. Maybe just looking for a new POI to be built for a long. Price quickly proves that idea out. We don't create a POI. This is an extreme zone here. We don't come back for it. Later in the day, price just bounces around. There was a trade in Asia. It's a bit of a, it's definitely a chain. So what happened was we broke here, we came down, we broke again. So there's our first part. It's just a demand zone, it's not a POI. We come down, come back down, we mitigate it, we flip, we react lower, we come up. So we're breaking this demand and supply zone. We don't break the high. But now this is a EM3 with this little wick under. It's a fairly good zone to pay attention to. We come down, we mitigate it, and we break again. So now we could say we have a chain. So here's the zone. We break. We get the floor. We break something. I mean, certainly by here we have a floor. A long wick chain here. The thing about this one is we don't really get a new zone made. I don't want to draw this in because if you look at the size of the zone here, this is huge zone and these little zones up here. So we're not really far enough away from here to start thinking about a zone. Sometimes I like to go back on the 5 minute. 5 minute doesn't help. So the way I play these is we're just going to keep coming out of this zone. Just follow the 1 minute here. It's all 1 minute price action. So coming down on the on the 1 minute. Asia, Tokyo opens right here, 8 p.m. my time, shoots up, creates a structure break, comes down, sweeps it in one motion, fills this void on the 1 minute, and then sets up fairly clean. Now this floor, we get the reaction here, come down, and we break. So that's our first break. So anything underneath that break will count as a floor. And so we come down, we do the same thing again. We react off this wick, and then we break again. Huge wick, doesn't matter. We got our zone in place. I mean, with these huge wicks, I'll probably just take this or even take the range, cover that low, and trade from there. And trade takes quite a bit of time to play out, but it plays out. So that would be one Asia trade available. Now, Asia trading is fairly rare. You see in this case, we go into the Asia session with a decent POI. If I only trade the first 1 or 2 hours of Asia, if there's a good POI, I don't want to wait around for a POI to form. And unfortunately, a lot of times it will just swipe out some of the lower quality POIs. Or just never come back. So that was Wednesday. We can move into Thursday. Thursday is non-farm payroll day. So big spike up right at 8:30. At this point, we are within the weekly flip zone. We don't have any more targets for longs. We're not really looking for longs anymore. And we're just gonna wait and see. So my initial idea for this day was a retracement, just this fizzle down, try to fill some of this gap in here, or this imbalance. and just waiting for a POI to form. We get this flip zone to be made. I had my alert set below it, and price just doesn't come back, which is okay. In Asia, Asia comes down to nowhere and trades up. Let's go to Friday. No, same thing on Friday. Nothing's changed. We didn't mitigate a 4-hour. There's no clear 4-hour zone. This is not anything of value. This is the only zone that's before the weekly mitigation. So my plan was to continue to play that that retracement down here. We didn't break this high. We got order flow going down here. So targeting this week low was my plan. So we get this sweep of a flip zone. So I'm willing to play this leg out at any point. I'm not too concerned about this. This is more of a CPB because it's against order flow. And while we don't have any more IRL within here, this is, I consider it the week low because there's no 4-hour price action. We're just in this. This didn't break this high and we got order flow. So just a complex pullback down to somewhere maybe here. And I remember looking at the charts. I was in this, looking at charts. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait for this void to fill here. I don't want to deal with this partial IRL bullshit. So I've seen it too many times where this would be a sweep. It sweeps part of it, sets up, and then just comes out for the rest. So I set my alert at the top one. It triggered. We came down. We flipped. And we broke. And so I set my trade, and price at least got me to break even beforehand. I think it ran about 2R before it came back and knocked me out. And it still didn't break, didn't even break that low. It certainly didn't break this low. Just went sideways because New York session was closed on Friday for the holiday. So that was the week on GU. So we had what? A break even short on, well, let's just go from Monday. Monday, nothing. Price ran up without a POI. Tuesday, nothing. Huge reversal, no POI. Off the L pod, not my style trading. Wednesday, nothing. Huge reversal. Thursday in Asia. There's Wednesday in Asia. Decent trade in here. Just waiting for Tokyo Open. And then Friday, a break even. So not the worst and definitely not the best week. Very slow week. So now we could go to EU. EU's definitely been better over the past several weeks. Now, EU is a little different because we were in this weekly last point of demand and daily last point of demand. But the main difference was this is exactly one leg. There's definitely no pullback. Yeah, we do have a small pivot here. But am I going to count it as a strong high? Probably not. So in that case, this could all be targeted as IRL. But we just don't know when price is going to turn. It could have turned here. We just don't know. And I don't think price ended up even, yeah, price did end up pretty far up there. You can see how this zone is formed here. It could be very well, it could be that. For some reason on the weekly, it's not counting this top wick. So it's something to keep in mind. It might end up being like that. So we could trade above that on the weekly, but it's technically not it. And that's because this wick was formed on the Friday. The Monday didn't have a wick. So coming in on this day, same as GU, we have 4-hour demand in control here. And we're just seeing what the lower time frame is going to give us. And we know we want higher prices on GU. And a lot of times I'll say EU leads GU, but this is one of those rare cases where we can see higher prices. We're expecting a significant higher price on GU, so it wouldn't be too out of the way to say that this might not hold and be the trade. We come down Friday, we miss this zone. And coming into my session on Monday, we don't really have a clear zone. So we could trade for more IRL. And this week high here, so you can see this high failed to break any of these lows. We're right in here. And we get the floor, we get the further break. And we create this liquidity POI, which I shrink down on the 5-minute. And price sets up pretty nicely. It gives up several setups. We get the flip, we get more. Yeah, and technically this first one, it's a liquidity POI, so that's really the first trade here. Just covering the liquidity area. We get another flip and a break, so we get another trade opportunity. We come down, we take more liquidity. And it's always good to see 1-minute liquidity taken after 15-minute liquidity is taken. It gives the trade a little bit more confidence. So again, we take more liquidity, we come up, we flip. So this would be another trade opportunity. We come down, we take even more liquidity. Price gives one. So that's not really an entry because it's not a flip zone. But if we're willing to take a trade like this, we could just take a trade like this, just move it and get in. So that was Monday. Price, yeah, it ran towards this, really this high right here. Now, the thing about this day is, even if like my higher time frame may have been for more of a neutral bias, maybe a short bias, because this 4-hour, if we look at this weekly, we come into the weekly, we break the last point of demand. We do form this zone. And this zone could hold and we could just continue price. We just don't know what it's going to do. We mitigate that hourly and we come back down. And then we land in this L pod right here. So we do get price coming out of a 4-hour area. And a lot of this is, it's not the clearest of price action. But at our very least, we do have, this week 15-minute high. And beyond that, we do have a week 1-minute high. So if this is our one-minute structure here, we get the break, we get the hold, we get further setups and breaks. So we could easily target this, and this weak 1-minute high, which it broke, would have stayed in those trades here. And yeah, that's some good trading. Even if I was considering shorts, maybe out of this hourly, I cannot short until this would have broken. Anything else would have been way too early. There's no POIs to trade from. So it's pretty much longs or sideline. And in those cases, since there was a decent narrative for both sides, I just take the long. So that was Monday. So we're going to fast forward to Tuesday. Tuesday looks like a mess. I'm back on the 4-hour. We're in this bit of a range here. We have this zone down here that wasn't touched yet, but if that goes, I would be more interested in shorts. Looks like we're building a chain on both sides. Floor here or floor here, chain, chain. And then previous day holds, previous day low holds. And then we break. We create this extreme POI. So now it's, what side is going to win? We don't know. We're watching this thing wedge. We get this break here. Price comes down into this area. It doesn't, it's not a flip. It doesn't really do much of anything. Kind of like a chain area, unfortunately. So we have our first part. We come up, we get our floor here. We do react and break. And price does hit here again and then break again. So we definitely have this being a weak high. So that could be, that's a significant development that I don't have drawn in here. Certainly don't have a weak low because nothing's breaking. We broke this, and then we're just reacting and breaking internal pieces. So at some point we could say something in here is a chain, but you see price tapped it and ran pretty quickly. There wouldn't have been much of an entry in here. Yeah. But just for the sake of having this on here, did have a weak high, which at the very least we kept us out of looking for shorts even with this chain, because this just fails to break that low. It's not even mitigating off anything. And we could just go something like that. All right, so that was Tuesday. We do build this extreme zone in here. Again, looking for this retracement to the 4-hour because we took out a 4-hour high. After a 4-hour high is taken, we could expect a retracement to a 4-hour zone. This is the last point of demand. So we just watched that. Nothing really to target in there. Not a clear higher time frame bias, it's just a range. Price drops below it and just trades up. So yeah, there's really nothing on a day like Wednesday. It's really tough to start targeting through this, even with this chain here. And then once this 4-hour action happens in here, it's a huge 4-hour break. I don't want to trade these zones anymore. I have to wait for a new zone to be made after that. Now we're 4-hour action, 4-hour leg, 15-minute new POI to trade from. Price quickly comes down. Looks like it came to this little imbalance right here. And it's really the end of the day here. Comes down into this strong 15-minute low. And the 4-hour's not showing anything. It's really not showing much. This is a window of imbalance, which most of the time these end up being CPBs. There's a lot of 4-hour orders that were missed here. So price is going to come up and kind of just bounce. So I never really want to make these zone unless price is showing a strong narrative. We come down here, and it's just gonna be another one of those days where it's 15-minute price action right here, one leg. If this price fails to break that low, we could get some price action here aimed towards that IRL and that week high, which at this point it's already been done. We're already targeting that high. So if you're a Frankfurt trader, getting in here would have been great. Asia started, and there really wasn't a good POI in Asia. So we get this break. It would have been really past my session. It's a nice liquidity POI since we broke with the body. No, it's not a liquidity POI. So what happened was we have price here come up, we round out, we mitigate, and then we spike up, we break. So yeah, there's liquidity under here. That's not really a flip zone. I'm gonna take that one out. It's really condensed price action because what we could see is price comes up, it comes down, takes that liquidity, and that's the first flip here. We have this efficient flip zone. So yeah, when this happens, I just kind of take this last one, just take this whole range. It's a bit of a mess here. It's certainly by Frankfurt, it's a chain. So let's go to New York session here. Okay, so New York session happens. Now we're in a decently good area now for shorts. We're in the weekly. We've kind of flipped off here, wicked higher, broke with the body. So we have this strong high, EM4. It's a reversal formation. We have some IRL to target. So if it comes up to here, I would happily take it this and take that down to, really, we got this 4-hour area. So we have options. Just need the POI mitigation. And there's non-farm payroll day. So let's see. Don't really want to trade in that. We don't get any POIs made at all. We're just going to go to the next day here. Oh, same thing. I was looking for shorts. We didn't mitigate this zone. This high failed to break anything. And then this high, this low failed to break that high. And we got order flow. So we got some IRL to take. We got this weak low. So my plan right at this was, yeah, let's pivot up, get a flip zone made, and then come back to that flip zone. And it happened exactly how I wanted to, even better than GU. It just didn't give liquidity on the 1 minute. Let's see, that's the mitigation. We get the first break here. We get the floor, but there's no liquidity. Like we never trade above until right there, which would be this liquidity. And then price doesn't create an entry model. So after 1 minute liquidity, it's got to break 1 minute structure or flip off something. We don't get either. So this would just be more of a random entry. It's not really what I'm doing. And then that's it for the week. So price did what I wanted. No trades. So it was really just that Monday trade, those Monday longs, and price got really choppy. No opportunity here, no opportunity here, and the missed, not really missed, but really nothing there. So that was June 29th through July 3rd. Definitely the lowest amount of trades I've seen in a month, but all I need is the one trade. So we've had more than one opportunity. The goal is to get large funding. So one trade a week is all that's needed. One trade, 3R on large funding is really where it's at. All right, till next week, Mr. X out.